Today, we're honored to welcome our first repeat guest, a great friend of mine, great individual overall, host of the Clean Mentality podcast, Easton Dutkiewicz. What's up, man?
How you doing, Anthony?
Oh, man, it's great to see you again. Always enjoy conversations. I know you got a lot of value to add to the people, and I'm just excited about this.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Excited to talk to all your viewers and provide some value today, man. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. So, if people haven't heard our first episode, would you be able to give us a brief synopsis of your story and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I, man, all right, where do we want to start? Really, we want to start at like high
Yeah,
school or
let's talk
okay,
about let's talk about the point where you kind of woke up in a sense, like you've been perhaps not on your path. And you're like, hey man, like actually I'm here for a
okay,
reason. Like I'm actually here to serve. Let's get into that.
yeah. So basically, the point where I found, man, what am I doing with my life is, probably in college. Uh, the beginning point would be 2020 when COVID was going on, and I was at home a lot. I was partying a lot with the people that were coming out of their houses, during that time. And I basically got to a point where I was going to the gym, was trying to eat healthy, but I was just realizing, man, I'm really not getting anywhere with this lifestyle. That's when I first realized it, and then I found Andy Frisella's podcast, Real AF, and it was basically from that podcast that I really started to hear like he spoke to my soul, and I kept following him from there on, and I think I started to try to do 75 hard, which is his mental toughness reprogramming. Uh, it's one of the best mental toughness programs in the world. Um, and he owns a couple different companies and whatnot. But that program, I started that in like 2021, and I was living at my grandparents' house. I was working for a company out of Fenton for construction. I'm a project engineer in construction, so um, and I just I still was drinking. I still was doing these things I was doing in college, and it just wasn't really going anywhere. I kept having these really highs and ups and downs, and really low lows, right? Um, and it it came to a point where, a few years later, in 2022 in December, where I was at a point where I'm like, okay, I need to stop drinking, I need to stop smoking, and I need to stop eating all this junk food and shit. And I need to get away from the people that are doing all of these things, because they are ultimately creating my environment ends up being the habits that are in my environment are going to, ultimately be my habits too. So the people, what they do, if they do those three things, drinking, smoking, and junk food, I stayed away from them. I did that for about 6 months, and that's when I came up with Clean Mentality, and started that podcast in December of 2022. And from then on, I found First Form. I became a First Form Legionnaire. It's a big community, multi-million dollar supplement health company. They founded their business on helping people get better instead of just selling you a product. They help you get your nutrition right and give you long-term results. And I really loved that, so I signed up for their one of their challenges, and I ended up getting into the Legionnaire program. Long story short, from there on, I met another group, uh, and I was still attempting 75 hard at this point, and that's called the Brotherhood of Kaizen. I met Oliver through First Form, and then he brought me into this group, Brotherhood of Kaizen. And at that point, it was 2023, I think in November, sometime around there. And I just started to really amp up. I had moved from my grandparents over to this side of the state in Grand Rapids, and I'm on my own again. And this time it's different. It felt a little different. I had this girlfriend and whatnot going on too with that. Um, and from there, 2024, for the first 3 months of 2024, I completed 75 hard. And at that point, I'm kind of where I'm at now. And then some other things happened. And I don't know if you got another question here you might want to guide the conversation, or if you want me to just keep going.
Yeah, just keep going, man. It sounds good.
Okay. So yeah, from that point when I completed 75 hard, I had been dating this girl for 2 years. Well, later on it was 2 years, but she had kind of been like a distraction during the 75 hard process, and I would get things done later than I really could have, and the process was a little bit chaotic. And I just kind of always had this thought in my mind about, man, is she the right one? And it never was like completely peaceful. Like there was some like stints of time like that where it was like peaceful with her, but a lot of the time wasn't. And a lot of the time I felt distracted. And I feel like if you're trying to find the right, if you're with the right woman, she's not going to be a distraction. She's going to be the support towards your mission, towards your purpose. And so I got to this point recently, like a month ago, where I was ready to make this hard decision. I'd made the decision a couple times before, but I was going back to her, and that was a huge mistake. If you ever do that, just know she's not the right one if you've already done it once. If you've done it twice or 3 times, she's really not the right one. So I got to this point again, and I reached out to my Brotherhood of Kaizen, some of the brothers in that group, one of them, Dallas, and talked to him on the phone. I'm like, hey, man, I'm really being a wuss about this. I'm in that mode again. I'm in that mode where I'm like, I got to end this. I got to be done. And Dallas said, hey, man, I think you need to do this. And I know it's holding you back from your true potential. And he basically said, send me a screenshot of the text, or when you drop her stuff off, send me a screenshot of it, because I want you to follow through with this. And so I did that. I followed through with it. I FaceTimed her. I broke up with her. Let her know it's for real on the text, and sent that back to Dallas. And then not 45 minutes later, I packed all her stuff up, drove it down to her, dropped it off, and it was chaotic to say the least when I dropped it off. She was very emotional, let's say, and it was kind of detracting, honestly, that she's latching onto me so damn hard there when she has to know that she's holding me back in some way. And I think that she needed me way more than I needed her. And that's something that, you know, it's good. It's probably good to have a woman that wants you more than you really need her. But at the same time, it was a weird dynamic at the end there. But to go on to talk about the lesson here, because everything I do, I learned from. Every failure, you got to learn from it. You got to improve, and you got to not make the same mistakes in the future. So what I learned here with this hard decision that I made and followed through with was, if you are a man that right now, like if to your viewers, like if you guys are right now in a position in your mind where you are not peaceful with yourself when you're around whatever girl it is, that is not the girl. And this is like if it's a constant thing every day or every week, consistently you feel this feeling of, oh, maybe I should break up with her. You should. uh, it's holding you back from your true potential. It's holding you back from something, and you have to make that hard choice, that hard decision, because the longer that you're in indecision mode, right, where you're not making decisions, not following through, your life is going to be scattered. You're going to be, nothing's going to be working right. Your gym workouts are going to suck. Uh, Anything you try to do, like go to work, sucks. Everything's just chaotic because you're not making that one decision that changes everything. And it's very important to, once you do, do do fall through on a couple of your hard decisions in life, because there's a lot of them, but they're kind of spread out throughout our life, is continue to always make the decision quickly. You don't need to overthink it. You already know what it is. You already know the answer. You just are not taking the action. And the longer you stay in indecision, the further behind you're going to get in your life. And the harder it's going to be when you do make that decision and you start to build yourself back. I broke up with her a month ago, and since then I've improved like tenfold on my life, and everything's kind of opened up. Opportunities have opened up. Money's been flowing in. Like, knowledge has been flowing in. Other friends have been supportive in all kinds of different ways. I felt way more peaceful internally. I've been fighting battles every day, but it's you you have to do it. And one of the things I've been doing lately this past week was getting up at 3:30, getting to the gym by 4, and kind of going into routines here. In doing so, you're up before everybody else. So you're already beating everybody else because nobody else there's 3 people there at the gym usually in the morning. Okay. So 4 o'clock, started my workout, hit it for 45 minutes. I'm to work by 6 o'clock. I eat breakfast, whatever. I do whatever, change in between. Work a 10-hour day. I'm a construction project engineer. I work a 10-hour day on a job site. And then after work, I go on my run or ruck, because I'm training for an ultra marathon right now. So I do about 3 or 4 runs a week. And it's a couple other buddies of mine in Kaizen are doing it. So they kind of peer pressured me into it. So yeah, it's a 24-hour race. If you don't know what an ultra is, it's a 24-hour race. It's on a ballpark. So it's 323 laps to get to 100 miles. So it's really, really freaking crazy. It's like David Goggins shit. So, but besides that, I get home, I do this 45-minute to however long it takes for my runs. Some of them are 2 hours long. And then after that, I'm eating good food. I'm carb loading. I'm having watermelon. I'm just replenishing. I'll go on an ice bath again here shortly. I usually do that before the run as well. So ice baths are like a daily routine thing too. And if you don't know about cold therapy, Anthony's talked about it on his previous podcast 100 times. He's talked about all kinds of different biohacking and things that you can do to improve your life. That's what he's all about. And he's an expert. But
Thanks, man.
yeah, so after that, one of my biggest things lately is getting to bed on time, because sleep matters. I mean, when you're in the early days in your 20s and you're trying to grind and build something big, sleep is not as important as you'd like it to be. You can sleep 5, 6 hours every night and still get things done. One thing that Andy Frisella says on his podcast that I liked, and I think I should share it with your viewers, is that the world was built by tired people. And think about all the construction workers that are building these buildings and they're tired.
Yeah.
That's how we get everything done. Is everyone's always tired, but it just is the people that don't make the excuse of I'm tired, I'm done, that the people that don't make the excuses create the world.
Yeah.
Um,
Bro, what I got out of that, what you said, in terms of the relationship thing, is making the hard decision, right? Because like a lot of people, they don't want to do that, and I'm wondering in your mind, like, what is it that people are missing when it comes to those hard decisions? Because not just in relationships, but I hear over and over again in terms of whatever it is, like health, wealth, relationships, like they're almost afraid to sacrifice who they are for what they could become. Like they want to hold on to the past. Like, what is that in your mind, man?
yeah, it's fear of success. So a lot of people have this fear of success because they know they can make that decision and they know they're going to become better, but they're good with their comfort zone. They like where they're at. It's comfortable. They know that there's not comfortable things going forward. And that's what they're afraid to do. They're afraid to be successful because being successful is being uncomfortable. That's what it is. It's doing that every day and getting comfortable. Once you're comfortable being uncomfortable, then you go to another level. And that's exactly what you're talking about right there. Um,
Absolutely. And I commend you for going through that because it is very very hard, and I'm sure you came through a lot with that, and just overcoming those to become who you are today, man. I just really appreciate that.
yeah, of course, man. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. So I know standards are something that you really bring a lot into your life. Like standards are really important. Like so for the people, what are standards, and how can we understand the importance of them in our own lives?
Yeah, so where do I want to start with this? So basically, if you're holding the standard, right, it's you're holding yourself to a certain level of consistency, discipline, and overall like habits, right? So you're holding yourself to these things. You're doing them every day. You're setting a standard for yourself. Like my standard is take initiative, accept responsibility, put the shopping cart back, uh, stay healthy, eat whole foods when you can, exercise every day, drink enough water, read every day. There's so many different tasks. Like there's habits and there's standards, right? And I guess to give an example of this, yesterday I was at the Trump rally. Um, I was standing in line for the Trump rally that was a mile plus long, and I'm there for I don't know 15, 20 minutes. It was hot. It was whatever. We were all standing there, and I noticed the group in front of me. There's some young guys. They clearly go to the gym, and they're like 18, 20, whatever. So I'm like, hey guys, you hit the gym? They're like, yeah, man. And then I go, all right, let's knock some push-ups out. Like, let's get a whole line of push-ups going up this mile long uh Trump rally line, right? Trump train. uh and they go, nah, man, I'm good. Something like that. It was like really lame to me. And I noticed that their dad had a 101st Airborne tattoo, and I was just like, to talk about standards, you got a man that was clearly in the military, can be a good leader, has had discipline in his life, but if his kids aren't willing to do some push-ups while you're at the Trump rally, we weren't getting there anytime soon. Um, I mean, it's your right. You're in America. You can decide to not do something with a stranger, which is ultimately what it was. But it's just push-ups, and um, I think the standard in our country, right, is be comfortable, eat shitty food, be obese, it's okay. Stay at home, watch Netflix all day, that's okay. And like that's what they're trying to push on us, right? The standard that we as Americans have to set, because ultimately we are the revolution that we're looking for. Trump or Biden or whoever the hell is not going to be the solution to everyone's problems like they think it is. It's going to solve a couple monetary things, sure, but it's not going to solve the real problem, which is the people. And the best thing you can do is set a standard around your communities, in your house, in your household, especially with families, from the time that they're kids to growing up, all that, or right now, whatever situation you're in, is a standard of eat healthy, get fit, go to the gym, go run, whatever it is. Keep mentally tough too. So, read some books. People don't read anymore because they want that quick dopamine. They want that freaking like this all the time. And it's too much to even read 5 pages for most people. I read 10 pages a day. I can read a chapter a day now just because I've practiced that. And you gotta create these habits. You gotta create these habits that are 5 pillars. Okay. So you got your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health, whatever you believe in, or if you don't, there is a higher power, and I believe it's God. But financial health, that's another big one for Americans. Everyone says that, oh, I don't have money, it's the economy, it's this, it's that. That's bullshit because you aren't handling your money the right way. You're spending it on all this stuff. I do it myself. Like I spend way too much money on gas station energy drinks and Zyn and freaking Tic Tacs. Like I don't need that. So
Exactly, man.
yeah. So I mean, it's the fifth one is relationships, and relationships health is so important because if you don't communicate and you don't care for that person and act for that person, and if you're not receiving it, it's a different story. But if you got to put effort in. It's 2 people. You got to put effort into every relationship, whether it's friends, whether it's intimate, whether it's family. And the part about relationships that I want to hit too is, and I know this is all over the place, but it's kind of in the same realm here, is if you have people around you that are not supporting you and pushing you up towards your purpose, towards your mission, get rid of those people. They don't need to be around you. Anybody that's an alcoholic, get rid of those people if you don't want to be an alcoholic. The people around you are the people that are going to ultimately, the people you're around the most are going to be the habits that you also take on to yourself. It doesn't matter. If you spend enough time with them, you'll start being like them.
Definitely, man. So what I was hearing there, in terms of the standards, like the importance of them, because a lot of us, we are holding on to standards that we may not even realize, like through our past, our story, our history, like it just kind of, we accept it as normal to be average. But there's a difference between normal and average. Like average is just kind of like the thing that we see, it's kind of the subpar of our potential in a way. It's like, just kind of existing, not thriving. And I don't believe that's normal. What's normal is to be the best version of ourselves. What's normal is to, rise to a standard that we've been called to so we can actually serve and be here because, as you were talking about, like health, wealth, relationships, if our standards are high, what is that going to lead to in our life? Well, if we exceedingly work toward a higher vision and we consistently take action, we're going to be much more abundant in our own lives, which is going to be a higher platform to serve. And just as you're talking about, relationships can be a thread throughout this podcast. Like the more we have in our own lives, like more knowledge, the more even just internal qualities like caring, empathy, all these things. The more we have that, like we're just gonna be able to serve even more, man.
So much agreed on that. I mean, you have to you have to look for what you want in life. If you don't know what your purpose is, it's because you're not doing something. It's because you're not trying enough. You're just stagnating. And if you're stagnating, you're more than likely indecisive on something. Like I said in the beginning, you got to make hard decisions. That's that hard decision you're not making. That's why you're stagnating. That's why you're not going anywhere. And there's a
Absolutely.
reality, there's definitely a reality of it is NPCs are real, not player characters. There's some people that are never going to change. That's like probably 10 to 15% of Americans will never change. It's just reality.
So having that in mind, like what are some ways we can actually raise our standards? Like how can we almost get like tired of the situation that we're in? Understand, hey, like there's more possibility, there's more abundance out there. Like how can we raise our standards?
Yeah, so I can tell you what I did. Um, I didn't start out with 75 hard. I started out with reading books. Well, okay, no, I started out with going to the gym. You gotta get out and you gotta exercise, right? I don't wherever you're at with it. It takes time. It's small steps to get anywhere. You got to build momentum. So those small steps that you take, they build momentum, and then the next day you have to just improve on those things. Do the same things, improve on them. You can create whatever kind of schedule you want, whatever kind of routine that you want. It's up to you. It's your life. But the way that I did it was ultimately when I got to that point where I'm like, okay, enough is enough. I'm following through. I'm doing this. Well, it was 75 hard. So with 75 hard, you do two workouts a day. It's 45 minutes each. One of them's outside, regardless of weather. You drink a gallon of water every day. You read 10 pages of a self development or nonfiction book. And that's largely important because this book right here that I've been reading recently, How to Win Friends and Influence People,
Oh yeah, classic.
I used this book this week 3 or 4 times. And that's the thing that people need to know too is if you're going to read and you don't take notes and you don't apply the knowledge that you learn, don't even read. It's a waste of your time because if you're not applying the shit you're learning, then you're just being a junkie. A self-development junkie is what they're called. Okay.
Yeah.
um, you got to apply the things. So, I mean, I can give you an example. This book uh, this week. So, my neighbor called me called on the city twice about my ice bath. I have a deep freezer for my ice bath because it's the best way to do it in the summer and it's cost affordable, whatever. So it's in the backyard now. This is like after I had to move it the first time, so we didn't get fined. It's in the backyard now. I get a call at work, and the the property manager goes, "We're gonna get fined if you don't move this in 24 hours." Blah blah blah. So I go, "Well, why is this happening again?" Because I already moved it once, and she said it's good in the backyard. So I thought it's that neighbor. I know it's her back there. So instead of going up to her and being irate and being like, "What the fuck? What are you doing here? Like, you're screwing up my life." I took it this way. I know she hates this house. I know this house is an eyesore. I know she wants the weeds off the back of that fence. And I went to her door, knocked on it. She's an 84-year-old woman, by the way. So she answers the door, and I basically go, "Hey, I just wanted to come over because I got a call earlier, and I just wondered if there's anything I can do because I know that house is an eyesore to fix it up or make it look better or move the ice tub, out of the way so you can't see it, it's out of view, whatever I had to do. And when you take a situation that is in your head, it's negative, but you're putting a positive to it and you're trying to help that other person, you're going to create a conversation, because that's what happened. I talked to her for 20 minutes after that. She told me how she's been here for 58 years. She's seen 4 different owners of this house and how they've not taken care of it over the years, declining rapidly. And ultimately, these old people, they just want a friend. She lives alone. She just wants a friend, ultimately. And this book from Dale Carnegie, I use that, be genuinely interested in other people. Smile when you're talking to them. You notice I've been smiling a lot during this interview because it's people like it, and it's inviting. Also, I feel good, but
Yeah.
So you got to go into situations differently than how you would if you're not acting off of emotion and you're controlled in your actions. You're going to get so much out of life, and you're going to get so many more opportunities.
I really like that, man, because at the end of the day, when we have like a complaint like that, like all we want to do is just kind of get to a solution in a way. Like not necessarily, it's usually not about the thing. Like you're talking about, like she was having issues in the past, and like I had a similar situation come up. It was years ago. I don't know if I want to get into it, but basically just like just being a friendly individual and creating a connection, because that connection is usually more important than the issue at hand.
100%. Like with my situation, I made that connection. I made a friend with her, and now, for one, she called the city and told them, like, forget it. I'm cool with his ice bath where it's at. So it took me 15 minutes, but I made a friend. I know where the city council meeting is, and I got my situation solved.
I like that, bro. Something I like to say is your level of exposure determines your level of success. Like when it comes to another thing that kind of goes hand in hand with standards, I feel is values. Like values, the way way we think, our beliefs, all these things. It kind of comes into who we are, right? And the more that we have positive exposure, like you talked about the brotherhood and first form and all that, like we're exposed to a different way of being. Like if we just have this past, that's all we see. That's all we're gonna get for the most part. So just surrounding yourself with high level individuals as much as we can, high level places, high level things. I think that's all a good start.
100%. I guess my one point on that, though, is that those communities and those people, you're not going to find them if you're not starting on your own first. You have to be already vibrating at a certain level, right? You have to, if you're like me and you want to get into a group of highly successful people and, get in that circle, and then ultimately it's going to raise you up, right? You have to be working out already on your own. You have to be doing the reading on your own already. You kind of have to be a little bit like that person already before these groups kind of these opportunities just kind of open up.
That's a good point, bro, because like yeah, it makes it a lot easier to like be in that environment, but ultimately like we don't have control necessarily over the environment, but we do have control like what's coming through our own minds, like our thoughts, emotions, and our actions. And it's a lot harder to do it that way, but I feel like you're saying, that is the precursor in a sense, and it's the most important part, because ultimately it's going to come down to us. All these things are going to be accelerators and help us with the growth, but it really is up to us.
100%.
So let's transition a little bit into relationships. I know we've talked about that a little bit as well, but man, I feel like the relationships that we have are like the glue that holds our life together in a sense. And something I like to say is that all of our relationships start with us, meaning like how we relate to our own selves, things we've talked about a bit as well, like our beliefs, our values, and just like if we mess up, are we going to beat ourselves up, or are we going to lift ourselves up, right? So having that type of mindset, and it's so much easier to carry that into relationships with everything else in our lives, people, places. So yeah, man, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so relationship with yourself, the biggest thing people do to avoid themselves and their thoughts is constantly have headphones going, or you're on your phone constantly, or you're watching TV, you're playing video games, you're driving with the music loud, because you're avoiding all this, all everything that's in here, you're avoiding. And if you want to get closer to yourself, turn everything off, put your phone down, put it away, sit in your bed with nothing, and wait for those thoughts to come in your head, because that's ultimately, if you have these close minded conversations with yourself and you talk with yourself, yeah, you literally talk to yourself. That's what I do. Um, you're gonna solve that problem. And I guess it also comes back to this. And I know maybe not everyone is in faith or has a religion or has a sort of spirituality, but if they do, you got to get close to God. And when you're sitting by yourself saying these things, you realize, like, oh, I really feel shitty about this breakup, or oh, I really feel like stressed out about this person. You're not going to even, you're going to need to reach out to God in order to get through those things too. That's going to provide you an extra amount of peace that you can't ultimately provide yourself. Um, every day, right? I mean, it depends on the day. Sometimes it's just too much. But you have to sit there and you have to let yourself calm down, because some people, I've had this happen to me before. I've gotten so stressed out with myself when I was in the military and getting ready for drill weekends in the past. I was packing my bag the night before. It was the worst routine ever. Pack your bag the night before when you have to be up at 4 in the morning to leave. Stupid idea. I'm doing this at 9 or 10 at night. Uh, so I'd get anxiety attacks about it, and I'd be fucking worried about drill so bad because I didn't take an action. I didn't prepare a couple of days ahead of time, and just kind of comes back to being okay with yourself and trying to connect that somehow. It's not having anxiety attacks, right? So you're not going to have anxiety attacks if you're truly there with yourself and you're not just going through the days, just going through the motions all the time.
Definitely, I love that, bro. Something I've come to the conclusion about uh, is the silence has the answers. Like, and like just growing up, like with people around, and I'm like, there's always some type of noise that got going on in the background, whether it's the TV, whether it's some type of music or phone, whatever it is. Like, I'm like in my head, I'm like, why can't we just be silent? Like, can we tune out the noise and we start to tune into ourselves? Because that's where the greatest versions of ourselves come in, man. As you discussed so greatly there, like really having the knowledge and like the awareness is essentially what you're speaking about. Like having the internal awareness, because awareness is the first step to change. Like, what are the problems that I'm really facing? Is there a potential solution that I'm not realizing? How can I think about this in a more empowering way? And I think that's really important, bro.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's like when you create the awareness though too. Like you have to get to a certain point. Like some people aren't at rock bottom, so they're not going to realize it until they're at that rock bottom, which is sad that some people have to get there, but some people do. Some people have to realize that, oh, I have a DUI now, like, oh, I should stop drinking, or oh, I, you know, broke that person's window from being an idiot, or I don't know. Just there's so many things where you could hit rock bottom and then you realize it. And ultimately, what Anthony and I are trying to do here for you guys is show you that you can start right now before you hit that point.
100%. So when I talk to you, man, we talk pretty frequently. I just know that you're a very like outgoing individual, like, and that comes from you. Like, you really care about individuals, you care about getting better in the planet and all that. Out of curiosity, like from your perspective, like what are the 5 traits that make great relationships? Like whatever it is, Like whether it's friendships, intimate relationships, like what is the thread that makes good relationships?
Oh, to think about that one. I'd say the biggest thing that you need to have in a relationship is you need to have trust. And trust is built, not, and it's built and earned. Um, and when I guess if I'm talking intimate relationships, I guess for a second, if you're getting together with this girl or man, if you're a girl watching this, if you're sleeping with them the first date, that's not trust. That you're skipping all kinds of steps and all kinds of intimate things that you need to be doing before you get to that point. And you didn't build a relationship. Uh, that's just wasting your body and your energy. Um, so that's not trust, right? But what is going on some dates, or if this is a regular relationship too. I mean, going on, hanging out, getting to know each other, and just giving yourself those intimate times to really know the person before, if it is romantic, you get into that romantic and like deeper intimate part of the relationship from there. And if you're Christian, I really feel like now, at least for me, I'm not even going to do that until I'm married under God. And I don't believe in getting married through the government, but that's a different story. Um, it like you get to a point when you've done these bad things in the past, or they're bad, but you've done these things in the past, you've sinned in the past, and you get to a point where you're like, okay, I don't want that. I don't want to do that again because it doesn't give me any fulfillment. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
building relationships, you got to have faith. You have to have trust. You have to have faith in that person. You have to respect each other. And if it's in terms of talking about a man and a woman, like if your woman is not giving towards, like pushing you towards your purpose, like if she's not giving that extra energy so you can get even more out of your purpose, it's not the right one. um like that's what respect is to a man. Like she's pushing me, she's also giving this good, like female feminine energy that you ultimately need, and then you're being pushed towards that goal in mind, and that mission that you have for your life, and that righteous path that God put you on. So I feel like that's super important. That was three. I don't know, two more. Integrity, telling the truth, that goes along with trust. Telling them right away. Communication is a really important point, because if you guys don't communicate what you're feeling, then you're going to have a lot of conflicts and a lot of arguments, because the other person's going to be like, well, you never even told me that. Like, how was I supposed to just know? So
Right.
it's, I'd say those are kind of the five things that I came up with on the fly: is trust, faith, respect. Um, over the other two.
Trust, faith, respect. You said integrity, and then kind of like
Integrity
yeah,
and
more of like a head
communication.
connection.
Yeah.
I like that, bro. I mean, I couldn't agree more. Like, kind of circling back a little bit to what we said in terms of standards and how all relationships start with you. You talked about how like really getting to know the person, and like how do we get to know the person if we don't know ourselves? Like, because if we don't know what we're looking for, if we don't know where we're going, then that's why it starts with us. Because if we don't know ourselves, and how can we know this other person and how they're going to? It's going to be a mutual and growth relationship. So I think that's something for people to keep in mind as well.
So I'll say something on that. If you're not the person that you would see being with that dream girl or that wife that you have in mind, you have to be that man before you can be with her. Like you're never going to attract the right one until you are that person. So there's a lot of building I have to do before I'm ever going to be with that girl that I want, right? There's a lot of building that Anthony has to do before he ever is going to be with that one, So if you're smart, you wait until you're that at that point, and then that person's going to just flow into your life at a certain point. I just know that's what's going to happen. Is they're going to be attracted to you. You're going to attract a higher level, higher level of woman, I guess, right? Because there's plenty of people out there that are not so good for you. And yeah, that's kind of my point on that.
100%, bro. I mean, a lot of us, like you said, we don't wait. We just kind of settle, and that's unfortunate because we are worth whatever everything that we meant to be. Like it's for us, man. Like we can have it. We just gotta, like you said, become that person. It's be, do, have. Like you have to become it, then do the actions, and you're gonna get it. So, 100%.
Oh yeah.
So, in intimate relationships, I really feel you touched on it so much there. Is like we really have to become it in order to attract it. Like we have to everything. Like we see people making lists and all that. Sure, make the list, then become the list. Like become those character traits that you want and are able to give to the other person. That's critical, man. Because like I see a lot of guys out here, they're just kind of even if they're like so-called high level, they're just going like girl to girl. They're just wasting so much energy. And in terms of like approaching, just like as an example, like a lot of people are afraid of approaching women and they're kind of like almost intimidated by their beauty. Like they don't want to approach a 10, right? And the reason why I know that is because they're not in touch with their own masculinity and who they are. Because when you're secure in yourself, when you know your beliefs, you know your values, you're on top of your game. Like it's nothing for you to do that because it's natural. That's what's supposed to happen.
That's so true. So, yeah, I mean, the reason that you're uncomfortable is because you're not the level that you need to be in order to approach that person. You got to work on
Yeah.
yourself a little bit more. Uh, oh man, there's something I had about this. Can't think of it now.
All good. Yeah. There's a thread I talk about through my writings and podcasting. And in terms of like kingship, it's really just like our masculinity. I talk about that in my, you got it?
Yeah, energy. So energy flows. All right. So I read this book called The Way of the Superior Man by David Dita. Best book I've ever read for anything relationships, like literally fucking anything. Um, the energy transfers that you're doing when you're hooking up with women, you're transferring energy to someone that's going to give nothing back to you. And that energy that you're using can be transmutated back into your desire for success and desire for your mission. And so if you're a man that's just constantly hooking up and doing the hookup culture, you're wasting your energy and you're not going to get any closer to your goal every time you're doing that.
100%. I mean, because if we're talking about like health, for example, like we don't, nutrition, like whatever it is, like we go for the things that are best for us, right? Like real food, organic, all these things. And we kind of avoid the things that are detrimental, like processed food and all that. If we look at like this is why personal development is the foundation because the foundational character trait of that is just working toward a better future, being the greatest version of you, and you apply that to your health, your wealth, your relationships. It's really all the same thing. But some people they miss that and they just focus on their health and they almost don't want to have the awareness that this thing that we're doing is not working toward a better future. And we're almost kind of suppressing this negative energy and it's coming out in this way. It's not going to serve us in the long run.
100%. And if that person is giving negative, if that person has like a lower form of energy than you do, you're taking that on.
Yeah, man. So I was talking about kingship. What that means to me is just like you're owning your own masculine energy. Like from a man's perspective, that's what I talk about. Because that's how I live my life, obviously, and taking on these character traits, these principles. Like a lot of people, they want to put their woman before their purpose. I think that's a big issue because she's attracted to you and who you are and your purpose in the first place. And if you put her first, all those things are eventually fall to the wayside and she's no longer going to be attracted to you. And whether she knows that or not, whether she admits it or not, that's really how it is if you want to have the greatest relationship.
Oh, that's the exact thing that came out of that book too, The Way of Superior Man. Yeah. So if you're focused on her more than you're focused on your purpose in life, or if you don't even know what your purpose is because you're focused on her and she's distracting you from finding it, you're just gonna stay where you're at. If you're complaining about your life all the time, but you're not doing anything to change it, that might be your problem right there.
100%, bro. Like, why is it that people do that in a sense? Like, they almost go towards this distracting energy rather than focus on what really matters. And what's coming into my mind right now really is a lack of awareness in a sense, like a lack of what we need to do in our lives, a lack of where we need to be, who we need to serve. Because ultimately, like it's almost like this a personal development principle of immediate gratification versus long-term fulfillment. What are your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, so my thought on that is if the person is uh like let's say one of your viewers, like they are in that position and they are distracted by this girl and they don't, like, you said like the thing about the awareness. Well, everybody has fucking awareness, like you do. Like, stop lying to yourself. You're aware of what's going on. You're just not willing to change because you like how comfortable it is. And everybody hates going through hard times. That's what it comes back to. Everything comes back to afraid to take the step because it's uncomfortable. And once you do, you'll feel better in like a couple days, literally. But
100%. I mean, like so few men are actually connected to who they are, what they want, their purpose is. I think that's really unfortunate because it's kind of almost kind of talking about our last interview in terms of freedom. Like there's a lot of like, look, weak men do the bidding of evil. I don't necessarily think that they're evil, but it's so much easier for evil to come through you in terms of actions and things like that. When you're a weak person, because the strong have true awareness of what they want, who they are, and where they're going, and they know that that little negative energy has nothing in comparison into the long-term future. So I think like staying on top of your game every day, man, is really important in terms of that.
and I think it's important that we mentioned that strength is not physical when we're talking about this. This is mental strength that we're talking about. Your ability to control your situation. I talked about this the other day on my story. If you are not in control of yourself, that means your body, your mind, then everything else in the world will control you. So the way that you get there is you have to have that hard conversation alone with nothing in your bed, no distractions. You have to have those hard conversations. You might have to have them every day to get out of the rut that you're in. And you have to exercise. You got to do it every day or 5 days a week for some people. I do it every day. Uh, Ideally, everybody can take a walk every day. So take a walk
Yeah,
every
man.
day. Um, Read a book. It's it comes down to that hard decision too. You might have a hard decision you got to make, but you got to be in control. If you're not, we all are capable of being in control of ourselves completely, but it does take mental toughness to get there, and it takes perseverance and persistence every day to get there. And some people aren't built for it. And if you're not, you're not. I mean, but I'm not going to try and discourage you. I think everyone's capable.
Absolutely, brother. And we talked about this various times of having the hard conversation, and I really think it starts having with the hard conversation with ourselves. Like, are we being honest in our own lives? Are we being true to what we actually want in life, man? Like not living by these rules and the matrix and what we think we were supposed to do, but what do we actually want? Like, what is actually possible? Like seriously having integrity and being honest with who we are.
And I'll mention this too. The book called The Four Agreements. If you guys haven't read that, you should read it because it talks about this right here, what Anthony was talking about, where we're all conditioned from the time we're born. We are brainwashed or programmed by our parents to think the way they think our whole life up and all the way through K through 12. Like, and then you get to a point where if you go to college or not, you're on your own a little bit and you're like, well, wait a second. Like, you get to a point, you're like, wait a second, like, what, like, why am I doing this? And it's because you've been programmed to think it your whole life. you've been
Exactly, man.
programmed to eat the shitty food. You've been programmed to try and get good grades and stuff when that really is not the ultimate goal. Like getting good grades is one thing, but if you don't have hard work ethic, you're not getting anywhere. If you don't have persistence, you're getting nowhere. And so you got to reprogram yourself. So read that book, The Four Agreements.
Definitely. Do you got any final thoughts, brother?
Yeah, I mean, we have to be the ultimate change in the world. Like everyone's talking about how Trump's going to change everything. He's not. He's going to change some things, and that's even if he gets in power. What if this guy doesn't get in power? What if, you got to think about how is it going to be if we're in a civil war or we're in civil unrest in some way in the next couple months. Are you ready for that? No, you're not. More than likely, 60% of America ain't ready for that. So you got to take it on yourself. It's going to be on you. You got to get fit. You got to, get somewhat fit so that you can handle that. And you got to, and this is in general too. Like if it does go well, it doesn't matter. Either way, we had to change this in society in America where it starts with you. When you make yourself better, like I've done, other people around you start to see it. Almost my entire family is starting to change now. I can see it happening. They're evolving, and it's so cool because like it just takes. You have to stay persistent. You just have to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And then these people are like, wait, like, why does he keep doing this thing? And then they change.
Love it, man. I couldn't agree more. Man, this was an awesome interview. We talked about a lot of things. I know people are going to get a lot of value out of this. Having high standards, great relationships, just being the change we wish to see in the world at the end of the day. I think it's so important, man. So if people want to learn more about you, and I'm sure they will, how can they get connected with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, TikTok, X, it's YouTube, Clapper, pretty much any app. Clean Mentality, look it up, you'll find me. Anthony probably link it, but yeah, I'm here for anybody. I train people in mindset and personal training, and I have a few clients right now, and I would gladly take anybody on.
Yeah, man. 100%. I endorse Easton's work. He does a lot of great things, and it's great to be a friend, man.
Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate that.
Peace.